too well. Say hello.
I can hear you really well, Dave.
Oh, come on. I can hear you very well, sorry. Adam, how are you?
I'm very good, very good.
Okay, you're in Los Angeles at the moment, and a couple of nights ago you played in Vegas, which was the first time you played in front of a sort of a big crowd in about 6 or 8 or 9 or 10 months. What was it like?
It was wonderful to be back in front of a crowd. Vegas is like our spiritual home. It's like the future city where all entertainers end up. And it was actually a really good bill. Lots of great people on that bill. Drake was on the bill. Sia was on the bill. 21 Pilots. It was fun.
And what about the choice of the songs that you played? I mean, there were no new songs. You started with Desire. You made sure you got something in about Donald Trump. Beautiful Day and One and Every Breaking Wave and also I Still Haven't Found. No new songs on Friday night.
That's right. We weren't really ready to air those songs. Originally, we thought we might do some new songs, but then we realized that between now and when the album comes out, it's going to be the sort of next year at some point. So it just felt like the wrong time to air those tunes.
Okay, can I just say those tunes? There are people here in this audience that would know about 40 to 50 different U2 songs that are either in gestation, half written, were played. Nobody knows anything. So, let's put it this way. I mean, is there a Songs of Ascent? Is there a Songs of Experience? Is there a different album altogether? What might be? Tell us something. Give us a morsel, Adam.
Well, this is definitely going to be Songs of Experience. This is going to be taking everything that we've learned in the last 40 years and consolidating and condensing it into one piece of wisdom or advice, which we will distribute at some point.
He's like a politician. Okay, Adam, like, you know, one of the things about the tour the last time round was the fact that it was about, just like the album was, about growing up in Dublin. The way those songs were, if you like, accepted on the tour, and I saw it in a bunch of places, including Vancouver and Paris, London, Dublin, it was accepted to the point where I think some of the newer songs, in other words, from the album Songs and Uses, went down better than some of the sort of hits. Does that make you feel really good that those songs sort of resonated so well with so many people?
Yeah, I think those songs really touched a chord. And it was partly they resonated because they were our story, but it was everyone's story. Those shows on the Innocence and Experience tour had a real power because of how they connected back with everyone's history, and you could feel that in the room, that focus and concentration. So with these new songs, which will be Songs of Experience, which will connect to people in the same way, but hopefully they'll be a lot lighter. I think really where we're trying to get to with these new songs is where we came from was a tough, dark place, but where we've been and where we are now is a much lighter, more enjoyable place to be.
And the fact that the gigs were all indoor, this is a big decision to make for you two to go back inside, if you like. Was it a good move on your part, do you think? Did you enjoy that experience? Because the reception has been absolutely ecstatic, whereas the reception often from some of the previous tours was some people might have said, oh, I don't know, they got too big. In other words, when you went smaller, it worked.
I think we always, our ideal venue is the arena, up to 20,000, which seems like a lot of people, but even in a 20,000 seater, you still get that sense of intimacy. When you go into stadiums, it is a different experience, and we've had some great stadium shows. I mean, Zoo TV was a stadium show, Pop Mart was a stadium show, 360 was stadium shows, but it's a different experience. There's more spectacle involved. And I think those indoor shows, much more about a musical experience, and there's a communing with the audience. And at the end of the day, we actually like to be the reason why people turn up in large crowds to be with each other and celebrate the music.
But could that tour be an outdoor tour? Could it go outdoors? Would you want it to go outdoors?
At this point, it's very hard to say what it could be until the record comes out and we see how those songs are received. My instinct is that it's not an outdoor tour. that's a Songs of Ascent or something else coming down the line. I think the intensity of the experience, and indeed the way the production was designed for the Innocence and Experience tour, I think it's indoor.
Okay, well listen, do you realise like this is the weekend where so many people have come here to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to celebrate U2 in terms of 40 years? Okay, at U2 have organised this brilliant weekend here. Now the point about it is, and in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there's very few bands, there's nobody that I can walk around and see where the same 4 members have been in a band for 40 years. Going back to the kitchen in Larry's house, I know there's been too many stories, but can you remember that? Because I know that the only reason you were allowed in is because you had a bass guitar.
I can remember it, and I think it was orange. It was a very nice kitchen in the suburbs, but it was we were thinking, playing a gig, we were thinking maybe have a 7-inch single out at some stage. We weren't thinking 40 years down the line. And there was a few of us there. There was Edge and his brother Dick, Bono and his friend Reggie Manuel. There was Steve Martin, another guy from school. And I mean, it was just, kids getting together to see if they could do anything. And I suppose out of it, the 4 remaining members of U2 were the ones who just went, this is what we want to do. We signed up for this.
And then when you played in the school gym, and there's literally like 4 kind of kitchen tables stuck together with gaffer tape, and you stood up there. I mean, like, did you give everything you were to the Beach Boys covers and to Bye Bye Baby of the Bay City Rollers? Were they important to you, these songs? And the Rolling Stones?
I think getting to the end of those songs was important. I'm not sure we figured out what to do when we got to the end. We just kind of stopped. But yeah, they were songs that were easy to play and easy to play for someone, not so easy for us.
That's good enough. Do you think in some ways, though, with the 40 years, that often, regardless of how good or how good the musicianship is these days with U2, do you think in some ways that it's not really about the best musicians, it's about the right musicians, and that's one of the reasons for the 40 years?
Yeah, it's not about the best musicians. We're not virtuosos, well, apart from Edge and Larry maybe. But no, it's about the quality of the ideas and how you put it across. Rock and roll is, rock and roll has always been a crude expression. It's been very direct. It's been, what have you got to say and say it. And, conversely, pop music has always been the sound of youth. So it is a simple expression, but you've got to understand the power of it when you see it.
Do you know, the funny thing is that, like, even though you mentioned there about it being crude and all the rest of it, is that, you're seen as the gentleman in U2, and always have been seen as the gentleman in U2, and the great manners that your parents gave you, beat into you, no doubt, as a child. The point I'm making is this, that somebody once said of you that you have this instinct for conflict resolution. Any fights in the studio lately that you had to break up?
Nothing recently. No. Everyone's been getting on very, very well. The usual musical fights over recording and where to do it and, what to have for dinner, that sort of stuff. But everything's been fine.
And what about, pre-Achtung Baby, those days? Was it really that bad over in Berlin or back over there in Dublin or whatever? Was it kind of dodgy, and did it come together through conflicts? That was one of the reasons why it's the best album for so many people here.
It's a great album. Actually, it's probably my favourite record at this point. I think all of this stuff is usually centred around people not being able to articulate what they really want. And the thing about Achtung Baby was none of us really knew what it was going to be or what it was going to sound like. So there was a lot of friction and pulling it in different directions. As it happens, I think what we ended up with was a really, really great record, and there's some fabulous songs on there.
And will there be fabulous songs on the next album?
The fabulousness of them is really something that you'll have to decide later, Dave.
Right, okay, well maybe we will. I think we're supposed to wind up now. Okay, just one or two more questions that I want to ask, which is, well, the first one is like the fact that it is the 40 years, the fact that you've had such a remarkable career. I mean, where does it go with what happens next? I mean, how like, I'll give you a perfect example of what I was trying, like 5 or 6 years ago or 7 years ago, around the time of No Line on the Horizon, you supposedly had a full album done with Rick Rubin. And that album never saw any kind of light of day. Might parts of what that album was surface in what might be next in 2017?
I think that material still exists, but I don't think it would survive in that form. You know, we're very good at going back to things and kind of cannibalizing them and taking the bits that we want. But I think if we were to do anything with Rick, we'd start again from scratch. You know, Songs of Ascent is also in the pipeline. We're going to go back to that at some point. You know, this feels like the end of a cycle for us. This record will probably be, there'll be some sort of change after that. We just won't be working at the same level of intensity after it. So, you know, the future's wide open. It really depends on where we are in, say, 4 or 5 years' time.
And will you be bringing the 2016 tour that people saw, but not that many saw, because there weren't like 1,000 dates? There's plenty of other places to bring it in 2017. Is that what's going to be live in 2017, what we've seen in 2015?
Yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to go back to that tour. We want to add in the extra songs from Songs of Experience, and we actually want to take it round to everyone. I think we maybe only did 9 or 10 cities the last time around, so really not many people saw it.
And Friday night, the first time you've properly played this year in terms of an audience out front, I mean, what's it like? Like, is there any kind of we'd say in Ireland, a brown trouser moment? Like, is there anything? Do you know what I mean? Like, it can't just be another gig. You know what I mean? Like, did you do a group hug before you went on stage?
It's a brown trouser moment. That's very controversial. It's always great when we get back on stage. It's you know, it is the place where it is just the 4 of us, effectively kind of alone, even though there's an audience out there. But it is the 4 of us on stage doing what we do best, and you know, we have one of the greatest audiences in the world, and you know, to get together with them is always a privilege, and we're very grateful for that.
Do you ever feel that the gap between albums is just a little bit too long these days? I mean, like your last gap was about 5 years and 5 months. The Beatles were only around for 7 years.
Very well made point. Yeah, I'm mindful of the gap. I don't like the gap. It is a long time between records. It's just what seems to happen, and we always go into it with the best of intentions that we would do it much, much quicker, but that doesn't seem to happen. The rule of thumb seems to be each record takes longer than the last.
Each record takes longer than the last. Well, let's hope it's not as long for next time round, because we were supposed to get something in 2016. We got nothing.
There is no certainty in life.
Well, listen, Alan, it's been a real pleasure. Can I just say, I think you'd like to thank everybody that's here today in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the At U2 people for the 40 years to celebrate the birthday of U2. They've been fantastic all weekend, and we've had a great time. And I think you probably want to say thank you, folks.
Thank you all very, very much. It's been a really good 40 years, and thank you for looking after Dave while we're not there.
Thanks, Adam. Good luck. Take it easy, right?
Oh, I can't see you. I was trying to get you another one.